Hi, my name is Maryanne Grebenstein. I'm a calligrapher and owner of the Abbey studio in Marblehead, Massachusetts. Today we're going to talk about broad-edged lettering styles such as this italic sample. Lettering styles that use a chisel-shaped pen. Lettering styles such as italic, Carolingian, uncial, foundational, Gothic, also known as black letter, very historic lettering styles. These pens have a chisel shape. They don't have a point. They have a sort of a square point. And they come in three different kinds of pens. We have a right oblique, we have a square, and we have a left oblique. The right oblique and left oblique refer to the slope that this nib is cut at, the angle that the nib is cut at. I know it's a little hard to see. I'm going to give you a close-up in a minute. It's cut at an angle, or it could be a straight cut. These pens are dip pens, meaning we have to dip them in a bottle of ink to make them write. They have a little hole that acts as a reservoir to hold a reserve of ink. They also have a little dimple on the front of the nib that adds to the ink. It holds a little additional ink. And we can also use a reservoir, a little brass reservoir that goes, in this case, on the bottom of the nib. Some nibs are designed for the reservoir to ride on the top, but this type would ride on the bottom, giving you a little bit of an extra reserve of ink. So it would look something like this once it's all assembled. I actually find that although they do work, I don't think they make that much of a dramatic difference, so I usually don't bother with the reservoir. They can be a little bit of a nuisance as you're working. The other type of pen that we could use would be a fountain pen, something like this. This does not require dipping in ink. It has a cartridge that holds the reserve of ink for you. I prefer the dip pens, but you should experiment to find out what works best for the purposes that you have in mind. Okay, let's get started. So this is the right oblique broad-edged pen. Hopefully you can see that the edge of the nib is cut at an angle. The left-hand side is a little bit longer. The right-hand side is a little bit shorter. This is a pen that most right-handed writers would prefer to write with, as opposed to the square cut, which most left-handed writers would prefer. There's also a left oblique cut in the opposite direction, which some left-handers prefer. If you're a left-handed writer, you should experiment a little bit and see what works for you. This is the reservoir that I mentioned earlier, little brass reservoir that would fit on the bottom, in this case, of my nib. But as I mentioned earlier, I actually don't usually use them. I find them a little bit problematic. So I'm going to dip my dip pen in a bottle of ink, filling the reservoir, not the brass reservoir, just the little hole that's in the pen nib, and begin writing. can tell when the ink is gone. Your two prongs spread apart and you can see through them. So this is lettering with a broad-edged pen.